you dove into the ocean today, or you watched someone else do it. Either way, something happened beneath the surface that you didn't notice. Every animal within sensing range made a decision about you. Not a reaction. A decision. And most of them made it before you hit the water. We tend to think of ocean animals as distant, alien, too different from us to have anything like a fear of humans specifically. That assumption is wrong in a way that changes how you understand almost every ocean encounter you've ever seen. The ocean is not indifferent to us. It never was. The question is what it actually feels when we enter it. Let's start with what the ocean actually is. It is not a quiet place. It is saturated with information. Pressure waves, chemical signals, electrical fields, low-frequency vibrations that travel hundreds of miles without losing resolution. Every animal in it is running continuous surveillance on everything around it. Nothing in the ocean is surprised by anything. That's the baseline. The ocean doesn't have silence. It has layers. Whales communicate across entire ocean basins. Shrimp colonies produce snapping sounds so dense they can interfere with submarine sonar. Dolphins use click sequences precise enough to build three-dimensional maps of objects they've never touched. The animals that live in this environment are not passive. They are processing machines, running threat assessment, navigation, social communication, and prey detection simultaneously at all times. Now introduce a human. A human in water produces a signal profile that doesn't match anything the ocean's nervous systems evolved to process. The sound of a diver's regulator sits in a frequency range that doesn't occur naturally in marine environments. The irregular splash pattern of a snorkeler generates pressure waves that resemble nothing in the predator catalog. The body itself, warm, large, moving with no coherent biological rhythm, reads as an anomaly. Not a predator, not prey. Something the system has no category for. Sharks feel this through their lateral line, a pressure-sensing organ running the full length of their body that detects movement with enough precision to locate a fish in complete darkness. When a human enters the water, the lateral line doesn't return a recognizable reading. It returns noise. And noise for an animal built entirely on information is its own kind of threat. There's also the electrical component. Sharks and rays detect electrical fields through organs called ampullae of Lorenzini, a dense network of pores across their snout capable of detecting fields as weak as 0.5 billionth of a volt per centimeter. The human body generates a bioelectric field. Every heartbeat, every muscle contraction, every nerve firing produces a signal. The shark reads it all, and the human bioelectric signature doesn't resemble any prey animal the shark has ever encountered. It doesn't resemble any predator either. It reads as something entirely outside the reference library. When a shark encounters something its system cannot classify, the default is not curiosity. The default is distance. In 2014, researchers at the Bimini Biological Field Station studied Caribbean reef sharks during routine human dive operations. What they found wasn't aggression, it was avoidance. Sharks that typically held territory in a reef system began moving to deeper water when human divers entered the area. Even when the divers were still, even when no interaction occurred, the presence alone was enough. The researchers noted something specific. The avoidance behavior scaled with diver density. 1 diver, minor displacement. 4 divers, significant displacement. The animals were not reacting to a stimulus. They were responding to a calculated assessment of human concentration. More humans meant a higher priority anomaly. The reef they had hunted in for years became somewhere else to be until the anomaly cleared. This is not fear the way we use the word casually. This is an evolved response to something the animal's biology has tagged as outside normal parameters. The ocean has predators. Sharks know what predators look like, sound like, feel like at the level of pressure and electricity. Humans don't match any of it. And in an environment where miscalculation ends your life, anything that doesn't match gets treated as the highest possible threat level until proven otherwise. The math isn't emotional. It's just math. The physiology of that response in marine animals is different from land animals, but the underlying mechanism is nearly identical. Cortisol, adrenaline-equivalent hormones. The same internal cascade that locks a trapped deer into rigid stillness is running in fish, rays, and marine mammals the moment something unclassifiable enters their space. In 2019, a study published in Conservation Physiology measured stress hormone levels in stingrays at a popular tourist feeding site in the Cayman Islands. The stingrays had been interacting with humans daily for years. They were described by tour operators as habituated, comfortable, the kind of animals that swim up to your hands and let children pet them. The hormone data showed something different. Even in animals that approached humans voluntarily for food, cortisol spiked every time a hand made contact. The animal was suppressing its threat response. It was not eliminating it. The stress was still happening every single time in animals that had spent years doing this daily. The body never stopped registering the touch as something it needed to manage. This has a name in behavioral biology: learned tolerance. The animal calculates that the reward outweighs the cost and modifies its behavior accordingly. But the cost is still being paid. Under every interaction that looks comfortable from the outside, the internal alarm is still running. It has just learned to wait. What that costs the animal over time is something researchers are only beginning to measure. Chronic cortisol elevation in fish has documented effects on immune function, reproductive success, and lifespan. The stingray that lets tourists touch it every day may be paying a price that doesn't show up until years later. Octopuses complicate this picture significantly. An octopus has a distributed nervous system. 2/3 of its neurons are not in its brain. They're in its arms. Each arm processes information semi-independently. When a human hand touches an octopus, the arm receiving contact runs its own local threat assessment, separate from whatever the central brain is doing. The arm can pull back, change color, or deploy ink on its own initiative without the central nervous system deciding to. You're not touching one mind when you touch an octopus. You're touching 9. Researchers studying octopus cognition at the University of Auckland noted something unexpected. Captive octopuses showed distinctly different responses to different individual humans. Not different categories of human. Specific individuals. One octopus at the lab regularly doused a particular researcher with water from its siphon whenever that researcher walked past its tank. It did not do this to anyone else. The behavior was targeted, consistent, and required the octopus to recognize and remember a specific human face, track their location in the room, and time the response precisely. The octopus wasn't afraid of that researcher. It had developed something more specific than fear. It had a relationship, and the relationship was antagonistic. The animal had assessed a specific human, formed an opinion, and committed to expressing it. Jennifer Mather, one of the leading researchers in cephalopod cognition, has argued that octopus behavior in human contact situations cannot be adequately explained by simple stimulus response models. The animals adapt their responses based on accumulated experience with specific individuals. They remember, they update, they hold grudges, and apparently they also form preferences. Some captive octopuses consistently approach certain staff members and avoid others with no food reward involved. Whatever is happening when an octopus decides it likes you, or doesn't, it is not a simple fear response. It's something harder to name. The harder question is what happens at the boundary of touch itself. There's documented footage of manta rays approaching divers and holding position directly above them. Not feeding, not investigating a cleaning station, just remaining stationary over a human for minutes at a time, letting the diver's exhaled bubbles run across the underside of their body. The behavior is consistent enough across multiple locations that researchers have had to account for it specifically. Manta rays have the largest brain-to-body ratio of any fish. They have a region in their brain analogous to the neocortex in mammals, associated with higher-order processing. They are one of the only fish species to pass the mirror self-recognition test, a benchmark that most mammals fail. The cognitive architecture is there for something more than basic survival processing. Marine biologist Andrea Marshall, who has studied manta rays in the Indian Ocean for over 2 decades, has documented individual mantas returning to specific dive sites where they have had close human contact before. The same animal, the same location. Over multiple years. Whether that constitutes memory of a specific interaction, or simply navigation toward a location associated with a positive sensory experience, the data can't yet determine. But the behavior is there, and it doesn't fit neatly into any survival category. Dolphins add another layer. Bottlenose dolphins in several locations around the world have developed what researchers call solitary sociable behavior. Individuals that leave their pods and seek out sustained contact with humans over periods of months or years. Fungi, a solitary bottlenose who appeared off the coast of Dingle, Ireland in 1983 and remained there for over 37 years, allowed swimmers to approach him daily and would initiate contact, surfacing beside specific individuals, matching their swim pace, returning to the same people across multiple visits. Dolphins show neurological responses to positive social contact that involve the same reward pathways active in humans during social bonding. The touch isn't neutral for them either. It registers. Whether it registers as something good is a question the data is getting closer to answering. Whales sit at the far end of this question. Gray whales in the lagoons of Baja, California, do something that has no clear parallel anywhere in the animal kingdom. They approach boats carrying humans and present themselves to be touched, not occasionally, consistently. Across multiple lagoons, across decades of documented observation. Mothers bring their calves to the side of the boat. They hold position while hands run across their skin. They surface beside the same boat repeatedly within a single encounter. These are animals that were hunted to near extinction. The eastern Pacific gray whale population was reduced to fewer than 2,000 individuals by commercial whaling in the 19th century. The lagoons where this contact behavior occurs were themselves sites of active whaling operations. The animals that survived had every reason, encoded across generations, to treat a human vessel as the most lethal thing in their environment. And yet, researchers who have studied the lagoon contact behavior for decades still don't have a settled explanation. The whales aren't being fed. There's no apparent survival benefit. The touch itself seems to be, in some sense, researchers are careful about defining the point. Charles Jurash, one of the first scientists to document the behavior, described the whales as appearing to seek out the contact, not tolerating it, seeking it. What that means at the level of what the whale is experiencing, nobody can say with confidence. What is documented is the behavior. An animal with the neurological capacity for complex social processing, with a documented history of catastrophic harm from human contact, choosing to bring its young to the side of a human boat and hold still while hands move across its body. The threat response is present in these animals. It activates under other conditions. In these lagoons, in these encounters, something overrides it. Scientists are still working out what to call that. The honest answer to whether ocean animals fear human touch is that fear is probably the wrong word for most of what's happening. What the data shows is this. Marine animals register human presence as a high-priority anomaly their systems weren't built to classify. Physical contact triggers measurable stress responses even in animals that have been habituated to it for years. Some species show avoidance behavior that scales proportionally with human presence. Others show targeted, remembered individual responses to specific humans. And a small number, the mantas holding still above a diver, the gray whales bringing their calves to the boat, the dolphins that chose a harbor and stayed for decades, show approach behaviors toward human contact that serve no survival function anyone has been able to identify. The ocean is not indifferent to us. Every animal in it has processed our signal, filed our profile, and returned a verdict. For most of them, the verdict is distance. Keep the anomaly at the edge of range until it leaves. But some of them came to a different conclusion. And what that conclusion is, what it feels like from inside the animal that made it, is the question the data keeps circling without landing on. The tools are getting better. Neuroimaging in marine mammals, long-term behavioral tracking in manta populations, hormone studies in contact zones. The picture is getting clearer. What we know right now is that when you enter the ocean, you are not invisible. You are not neutral. You are the most unclassifiable thing that has ever moved through that water. And every animal in range knows it. The ones that let you get close anyway made a choice. We just don't know yet what they were thinking when they made it.